Hi everyone, my name is Elena and welcome to my channel. I'm a hype theorist and today we're going to be talking about the concept photos and just general album of the Chaos chapter Freeze. So before I start the video, I just wanted to let you know that all of this video was written and recorded before the teasers for the 0x1 love song video came out and all of its teasers. So any information that comes out regarding the teasers is not going to be in this video, but I'll talk about it in my reaction and of course my subsequent theory video that'll come out whenever that's actually out. Roll the intro. Dream, love, happiness. A phrase that has been mostly overused as a possible reference to the 3 possible arcs and album trilogies of the TXT universe album. This originally came from RM's song Persona in the music video, and it did feel like the word chaos actually broke that theory. But looking at the title of this song and of course the overall theme of the music in this album, I think that perhaps this really is the love chapter. Or rather, it's actually the lack of love, which causes the chaos, which makes their hearts freeze, as we kind of saw in the chaos concept video. They might actually need love to come out of this chaos or frozen state. And we see different phases of this throughout the album. Their frozen hearts, which of course can be translated as being frozen in time, like we've seen them kind of trying to do before. They didn't want to go further in time because it always seems to end in chaos and death. But also their love for each other, which we've actually slowly seen disappearing, which instead brews the possibility for mistrust and miscommunication. And this is just 2 phases of love that we see already that is reflected within this album. They really just need to talk it out sometime, you know? Anyways, the 3 versions of this album are, of course, You, which is the center, the heart, the frozen part. And this, of course, is a reference to the idea of Moa, that Moa are TXT's heart. They're like what they love. And then, of course, the World and Boy albums, which sit on the outside in the promotional imagery, which is very interesting because they're blue and green respectively, which are the same colors as the cat's eyes. I mentioned that before, but I think it bears mentioning again because I find it really interesting. And I mean, it's possible the cat is behind the reason why their hearts are frozen in the first place. And like what we saw happening in the concept trailer for Freeze as well. And I'm interested to see how the cat is going to turn up this time, especially because, like I said, it looks like it's on the cover of the albums, which is actually kind of terrifying now that I think about it. When it goes on my shelf, will it be staring at me in my sleep? In the concept video, we got the phrase fight, flight, or freeze, which indicates unnatural reaction to danger. We have seen them run before in Runaway, and we've seen them fight, both against the big bad and with each other. And now they're freezing. I don't have a ton to add to this from the concept video itself, which was fairly self-explanatory, and I think we'll probably see how it ties in more once we actually have some music videos to go off of. Just wanted to mention that part. Anyways, let's go ahead and start to examine the concept photos for this album. Like I said, there are 3 versions of this album, similar to the previous album, Minisode 1 Blue Hour. These 3 versions are World, You, and Boy, and each show different states. The state of their world, which feels separated from the rest of reality, You, the offerings they have to share with others, and Boy, the manifestation of their loneliness and how they deal with it. The way that the concept photos are presented to us is in the form of a map. The world version lies on its own in a little half-heart, possibly tear-shaped island, which might be a reference to Magic Island, which is the digital version of reality that they spend time in, but also the idea that they're separate from it all, like again the theme of the album seems to suggest. Meanwhile, the other 2 versions are in the shape of a heart, which is a huge point in the advertisements and will definitely be an overall theme for the music videos, I'm sure. I'm sure we're gonna see so many hearts. There's already way too many hearts. Some people even pointed out that this heart actually follows the real-life map of Tuksum, which is often where they're seen traveling in the story, which is a really fun Easter egg. Before I get any further, the link to these concept photos is in the description and in the pinned comment. People always ask me where they are, how it works. You literally just have to scroll down on the link that I send and then like click the thing that looks like a phone screen. It's all in there. Okay, let's move on. World. The world photos show us this frozen landscape that we've started to associate with the boys. This definitely shows their frozen hearts a little bit more, and is probably why the island appears to be a half heart instead of part of a whole one like the other 2. In several of the shots, they're even separated by a rainy window, as in this is the inside and they're looking on the outside to a world that they can't go to. In a way, this is the world, but it's also what's in their hearts, and at the moment, it's frozen over, which is of course the theme of this album. There's a couple of really interesting things in here though. First, Yunin Kai and his eye patch. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time, you probably already know that Kai's pain is his heart. He's often seen like clutching it and stuff. So of course it's convenient that Kai has an eye patch that is a heart, which also is the theme of this album. Ha ha ha. And I'll talk about this a little bit more, but it's convenient that Kai seems to be a little bit separated from the members, which is actually physically depicted on this map as him being really far away from the others. And in fact, he might not agree with this separation and this sheltering that they're doing. However, the fact that his heart, which is his pain, is on his eye, obscuring his vision, is an interesting thought. Especially because up till now he seems to be mostly unaware that his friends are fighting, or he doesn't really understand what they're fighting about, as we've seen before in the port version of the Eternity album. Those are concept photos, by the way, which can also be found in the link below. It's not on Instagram. Okay. Anyways, his love for his friends literally turns a blind eye to what's happening. We know that he has a big heart, but at what point does he realize that his wings are superficial? What eventually turns these angelic looking wings into dragon ones? I think probably while it's not next, Kai's arc is starting to get hinted at a little bit more, and we're gonna see a little bit more of what is going on there. This definitely feels like a first step to me, because like we haven't yet seen what actually corrupts his heart the way that we saw with Yeonjun, Subin, and Beomgyu. And I assume we're gonna see Taeyeon because Taeyeon's arc should be next. Hey, it occurred to me while I was editing this that it's possible that the scenes we're seeing in Eternally are the scenes where they become corrupted, which I love for us, because the scene that Taeyeon sees is actually the scene where Yeonjun is dead and his pain is his eye. I don't know, just something to think about. We do see though in Yeonjun's photos that he and Kai are still really close buddies. And I have mentioned before that the two have yet to be separated from each other. And largely I believe that that is because of Kai's blindness towards the overall situation. We do know that Yeonjun knows something's wrong. He thinks it's his fault. He feels guilty, you know, because he made the contract with the cat. But it'll be interesting to see like how this dynamic actually plays out when they show it to us. In Subin's version of the photos, we get this interesting piece, which seems to be mimicking the three wise monkeys. See no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. This photo is specifically used for Subin, even though this same three group thing appears with the others. And interestingly, the meaning for these monkeys is often used for the idea of turning a blind eye to events that you see. Hilarious that we just mentioned that that's exactly what Kai is doing, or being told to do by three wise monkeys. Not only that, but Subin and Taeyeon are liars in the Can't You See Me choreography and that music video, just in general. They also might, in another timeline, be the attackers in Doom's Night, and Taeyeon and Beomgyu have previously fought before, but that essentially means that Beomgyu knows that something's going on. But they're keeping it between themselves. They're not sharing it with anyone else. Interestingly, this is also highlighting their pain. Subin with his ears, Taeyeon with his eye, and while Beomgyu isn't specifically doing anything with like not talking, his pain is the spikes on his back, which I've previously mentioned might be the idea of carrying a weight on his shoulders from his friends, because he is supposed to be the healer of the group. But also he now is a secret keeper, I suppose. Even more interestingly, it seems that Subin is actually causing his own pain, something that we do see in the Doom's Night video as well. He also seems to cause Taeyeon's, who is the one who is silencing Beomgyu. And this provides a really interesting setup between these three, and I believe as we like move forward from Beomgyu's arc into Taeyeon's arc, this dynamic will be covered more, I hope. Speaking of Beomgyu, he's got a lot going on in his photos here. He's the only one pictured with a fence, which does have a heart on it. But I do think this is because, as he describes himself in the like behind the scenes, he is a prince who's been deposed, forcefully taken out of power, and thus locked up behind a fence. An interesting thought, because while it looks like Beomgyu was the prince with a crown on his head, something that has previously been associated with Yeonjun, is that still the case? Was it ever really truly his to begin with? Speaking of crown, if you click on the crown on this map, it actually has all 5 of them, which makes sense to me, because the story needs all 5 of them to actually end properly. Like, the whole point is that they have to come together for tomorrow to happen. Tomorrow by together. However, the fact that they seem to be in front of like a broken stone and there's arrows that have clearly been shot at them from like some battle gives the feeling that they've all been deposed of which again takes us to that idea that society has kind of cast them aside because they're different. I do wonder if the arrows will be important or not though, because we did see arrows before in Puma, and we do have a song referencing Puma on this album, so it's also in Enhypen as like the arrows of fate, but I have no idea if that will be the same representation here as it will there, and I'm guessing probably not. Overall, I'm guessing this most accurately sort of shows what's going on in the concept video. They're being attacked with ice, which did eventually hit their hearts, but the idea that society as a whole was attacking them for being different, which I think a lot of us can empathize, is definitely there. This theme is often explored in their story, and of course I'm expecting this comeback to touch on that once again. Finally, to wrap this section up, several of the videos are also adorned with glitches. To me, just adding on to the fact that this not only shows us what's inside of them at the current moment, but also adding to the idea that it takes place on Magic Island. Remember that while Magic Island does seem to be like a digital reality that they can travel to, it also reflects their subconscious. This is a direct indication of that. This concept is a boyfriend concept, as in the love that they have to give and share. It's a really cute concept. And they even have like short little phone call things that happen where they're like, I'm waiting for you. And then it makes me wonder if we ever actually come, because Moa are... Also, they have this scene where it seems to be like kind of cloudy or rainy and kind of sad, sometimes under an umbrella, like they were left waiting for someone who never came. My friend Lame Game Hero from my Discord server suggested that maybe this is why they dressed up as ghosts in Blue Hour, or even sang the song Ghosting to begin with. If that doesn't make you sad, then I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, this concept is a little more like on the nose than the other two. They all have their own dates planned. Taeyeon gets you balloons, Subin has movie tickets to the name of the title track, which is a fun Easter egg, Beomgyu has ice cream waiting, Yeonjun has his motorcycle date planned, and Kai is ready with flowers to take some fun photos together. There's not really a ton for me to break down with this concept, but I did just want to point a few things out. Kai, for example, is holding the same flowers that we see in Beomgyu's Crown for the world version of the album. I'm not exactly sure what this might mean or if it was intentional or not, but either this could be because they wanted to use the same flower because it was a nice looking flower, or maybe Beomgyu took the flower from Kai, Kai gave them to him, but if we're following the Beomgyu antagonist route, I mean. Also, Kai is pictured here with an umbrella, which he has been associated with before. Once again, back in the port version of the Eternity album, which I seem to be referencing a lot today. This is different from the more group style, like photo umbrella shots, because his video itself is actually associated with the umbrella. I believe this and all previous instances of this motif being used for Kai symbolizes something. Once again, that idea of him being sheltered by his other members. The Port album had him asking what was going on, and Taeyeon was just like, you're better off not knowing. Like, completely dismissing the fact that he's asking a question. And he is the youngest in the group, so I guess it's just like, oh, protect the youngins, Catcher in the Rye. That's actually in relation to Beomgyu. But now we see that Beomgyu, Subin, and Taeyeon are all like, you know, keeping their own secret. Like I said, Yeonjun probably knows what's going on. He made the contract, so yeah, he is being sheltered. By the way, if the whole like Yeonjun thing is confusing to you, please watch my Doomsnight video. I talk about it way more in depth there and it'll make way more sense. Beomgyu himself seems to be really unhappy in most of the group photos, seeming a bit off to the side or separate in them. Again, this adds to the whole reason he attacks Taeyeon and everything we see happening in the drama music video, so I don't think we're completely done with Beomgyu's arc right now. They're probably going to touch on it slightly before we slide into Taeyeon's part. It's also interesting because it doesn't really like match the whole date and hangout idea. Like, they were hanging out to have fun, and for some reason he's not having it. But here we are. Also, I am going to talk a little bit more about Beomgyu and his ice cream when I cover the song called Ice Cream on their album a little bit later when I break down the album tracklist. Finally, Yeonjun and his earring of a clown. What? Why is this a clown? I'm sorry. Is this because it's the Starlight Festival? Like, is there a clown at the festival? Is it because of, dare I say it, the carnival? I feel like they made this choice very consciously and they're just messing with me at this point, trying to get into my head. Stop it, Hybe. I see you. I see what you're doing. Why are you putting clowns here? Are you calling us clowns? Because we are. We might as well have a matching earring. It's painted all over our face. You are trying to get into my head and it is working. Why are there so many carnival references in the Hybe universe? I don't know. Driving me crazy. They're literally clowning us. Anyways, I just wanted to point that out. Moving on. Boy. This concept seems to cover different ideas of coping with depression, which sort of ties into the whole frozen heart concept of the whole album. They revert back to things that they loved when they were boys, when they were young. Hence the name of this version. This is the only version on the map that has like actual photos of the boys that you can click on instead of like a vague shape or emote. And I'm guessing this is because it reflects their internal struggles. It's the part of them that is most true, the most real version of themselves, the one that they don't show to anyone else. And this isn't the first time that we've sort of seen them talking about possible like depression and isolation, and it's not the first time that we've seen the boys seeking out like some form of sanctuary. In fact, we actually had that in the Sanctuary version of the Magic album, where it heavily featured the ideas of like escapism along with themes of bullying. This time around, I do think it has more to do with loneliness than bullying, although if you go back to the World version, they are injured in that as well, and it could be because of the bullying that happened from the outside world. But as we all know, loneliness in general has been a major side effect of the current world situation, and we know that they have talked about this in the past, like with We Lost the Summer. But for these photos, again, escapism is still a factor. So like I said before, this album does sort of revert back to the things that they loved when they were only boys. And again, this does also mirror common symptoms of depression. Yeonjun eats a lot, Kai plays a lot of games, Beomgyu sleeps and stays in, Taehyun spends all his time reading, and Subin seems to surround himself with an overabundance of things he likes. In this case, shoes. It's also possibly the idea of like, you know, spending a lot of money to like make yourself feel better, buying and accumulating items, or that maybe if you're a kid, sometimes parents will just buy kids something to make them happy without actually dealing with the issue that's causing them to be upset in the first place. This is probably why in the group photos it shows a playground. It's a familiar thing that's rooted in nostalgia and thus feels comforting. This, again, like the other versions of the album, ties into the whole frozen heart idea. Their heart is frozen, so they're trying to thaw it with things that are warm to them. We also get this conversation, which highlights that they're feeling lethargic and, you know, distant, and that just makes me feel sad. We also get this group photo, which has 3 of them around the dead bird, and this immediately makes me think of the Dooms Night where Kai was mourning a dead bird, so I wonder if it's like a reference to him somehow. I have a feeling this is gonna come around. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it in the music video somehow. It might also sort of symbolize the death of their childhood or something like that. This concept does have a lot of stuff in it, like, you know, literally lots of stuff. Pokemon, for example, and manga. But I specifically wanted to talk about these posters that are behind Yeonjun. This is the poster for La Cité des Enfants Perdus, which is a French film that translates to the City of Lost Children. This is a science fiction film about a scientist who is unable to dream and thus kidnaps kids in order to steal their dreams. This obviously ties in really well with the overall theme of the previous album and this current one, because it's like, you can't dream, your heart is frozen, and thus you steal other people's, or something like that. I haven't actually watched the film, but it does seem like it's generally meant to sort of criticize different parts of society, like the negative effects of capitalism, the exploitation of childhood, and the loss of innocence, which are all themes that we can see mirroring TXT's story. There's also a carnival in this story, which... There's also a poster for Gremlins, which is a comedy horror film from 1984. TXT now obviously has like mixes in with the horror genre, especially like in Eternally, for example. In this film, the father figure brings home this gift for his son that he sort of tricked these people into selling to him. It's like this little doll called a Mogwai. Mogwai? Anyway, it's Cantonese for devil, and it ends up tricking them into feeding them past midnight, which is a rule that he was not supposed to break, and it kind of grows these cocoons in which the gremlins come out of. I don't know, this whole stuffed toy thing is making me think of the bear. There's also this photo of the album art for Flexible by Steve Vai, which is a music album in the rock genre, which I think some of TXT's sounds might actually fall under. This track list for these albums is actually really interesting, and some of them do actually seem to tie into the previous films we just mentioned, as well as some things we've seen with TXT before, namely Little Green Men and Next Stop Earth, which both have to do with the idea of extraterrestrials. Anyways, speaking of track lists of albums, let's go ahead and talk about the track list for TXT's album Freeze. Just so you know, TikToks were dropped this morning, and I'm not going to be covering any of the things that were mentioned in the TikToks because I just don't have the sanity for that right now. It would require looking at everything again, and there's not enough time. So we are just looking at the album preview today. and of course the titles in general. And I do want to say that the translations for everything that you see here is either done by Lame Game Hero, who's a patron and a member of my Discord, or by Translating TXT over on Twitter. Sometimes I combined the two translations so that it made most sense in English. I just sort of cross-referenced and then chose the words that made the most sense. So I Frankensteined the translations together. I apologize in advance. Until we can get more official translations, that's gonna have to do, because they're going off of ear here, you guys. But of course, let's start out with our title track. 0 by 1 equals love song, or I know I love you. The only lyric that we hear of this song is I Know I Love You, which is the title. Doesn't really help us in that regard. We did see this track hinted at in the U version of the album on Subin's Tickets, but it also references a past lyric in Blue Orange Jade and the first fandom name before it was switched to MOA. If you didn't know, the original fandom name was actually Young One, but it ended up being changed because it matched Tiffany Young's fandom name. But MOA kind of kept the same general meaning of Young One, which translates directly into Korean as forever. So in Korean, 0 is pronounced young, and then you have 1, so Young One. So this title, I feel like it's kind of a reference to that, and so it might relate to the idea of MOA and forever. I should note that in this song title though, 0 and 1, Young One, are actually separated by an X, which in the album art is us. We are the X. And so the heart is actually frozen. The heart in between them is frozen, and that's why it's not together. It's not forever, because this is another reason why MOA doesn't show up to the dates. They were frozen. I'm laughing, but I'm sad. Interestingly enough, in algebra, 0 times 1 actually equals 0, indicating that their love song would be empty without the heart. That sucks. However, as Eva, I hope I said your name right, I pointed out on my Discord server, in hexadecimal number coding, 0 by 1 actually equals 1 instead of 0, like how algebra suggested. This is also used for coding, and we know that TXT has a lot of references to video games, so it's possible that this equation also might relate to the digital world of Magic Island. That would mean that the 3 parts of this equation would in fact equal something more whole. Previously, the lyrics of the title tracks always sort of reflected what was going to happen in the TXT universe, the Star Seekers music video that was later released. So assuming they're following that trend, I'm really excited to see the lyrics, and that's probably why they didn't show anything yet. Obviously, I have a feeling you're going to see a teaser at this point, so you may or may not know the lyrics depending on how much they show. We just gotta wait for the music video. I also forgot to say that the whoa of this main track actually kind of matches the sound that we heard in the Magic Island music video when they were first going to Magic Island, so that kind of makes me think of when this might be taking place, especially because we know that when they first go to Magic Island, that's kind of when all of this stuff goes to, chaos, basically. So keep that in mind too. Anti-romantic. Sorry, I'm an anti-romantic. I want to run away, far away. My heart that is already chasing you from little embers, it burns up. This song is interesting because while we know that this album is about the freeze response, this song is actually about running away, the flight response, which we saw previously in Runaway, which is kind of also references because it talks about a fire. And the fire in Runaway, I theorized, had to do with emotions, and in this it says the fire is related to the heart. So were they running away from their heart? Maybe! This song is the opening for their album, so I'm guessing it's going to try to cover the idea of the album as a whole, hence why it's talking about running away. Maybe that's the flight part, I don't know. Maybe they also reference freezing and fighting. Either way, I'm excited to see the full lyrics of this song. Magic. Always just like magic. We want to touch, always the rush, no one else has it. Just like magic, always just like magic, holding me right, giving me love. This is a full English song. And from the preview, this is a cute song about love, which as I mentioned is the actual underlying theme of this album. Of course, magic in general is extremely relevant to TXT. I mean, they had a whole album, their only other full album, I should mention, called Magic. And of course, their story centers around magic. They have magic circles, just everything. So it's gonna be interesting to see how much this song ties into that theme. Ice cream. Small evil deeds or villainy. I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. Melt me away. So the Korean title does imply like evil action. So I'm guessing it's like a tiny evil. Ice cream, tiny evil. Fun. I scream, you scream, we all run away screaming because it's ice cream. It's evil, I guess, which is why we're screaming for ice cream. In all realness though, Kai has previously been tied to ice cream. He's the one who drops the ice cream internally as he runs into future Subin, which is probably what started the grudge with ice cream in the first place. Funnily enough though, he was tiny when he dropped this ice cream, so I mean, I'm waiting for Kai's antagonistic streak, okay? There's so many hints at it. Like, his wings were fake in Nap of a Star. He was possibly fighting like Bomgyu and Eternally. I mean, it's coming, I'm sure. At some point. The pieces are there, he just needs to knock them over. But otherwise, there was actually like an ice cream sign also featured in that particular music video in the same scene, just a little bit earlier. And this was at the Starlight Festival, so that makes me wonder if maybe there's more to it and it actually was the ice cream, and it's a good thing that he dropped that ice cream. However, as I said earlier, Bomgyu is the one with ice cream in the concept photos, which means that he might be tied to this idea of little evils. And I totally never made a video like, you know, talking about how he's an antagonistic character or anything like that. No, I never did that. Interestingly though, this might tie into something else that the title does suggest. Alignments. So Lame Game Hero, who, like I said, they did the translations, they're also a patron, they're on my Discord server and on Twitter, did say that the Korean in this title matches up specifically with the alignments that you see in D&D, which leads us to believe that the evil of this song might actually have to do with D&D alignments, which we know TXT has a lot to do with. This might be what the evil of the song suggests. This might be why there's chaos in the title of this album. This alignment chart actually goes beyond D&D at this point. I think you probably will recognize it. Well, it's good, neutral, and evil mixed with chaos, neutrality, and lawfulness. The title of this song ever so slightly suggests that they're sort of subtly breaking away from the norm of what their alignment is and going in towards another one. Tiny little steps that build up over time. Small nudges of character that can take you from, say, true neutral to a chaotic evil. Fun fact, druids are usually true neutral, and do you know who's a druid in this story? Bomgyu. I just wanted to point that out. In the lyrics of Can't We Just Leave the Monster Alive, it says, "We're done playing boring roles and we've become each other's." This indicates that not only do they want to shift alignments, but they actually also want to shift like their roles in the story. They're kind of getting bored of doing the same thing over and over and over again, playing the same characters. And like I said, this part of the role that they're switching might also have to do with the alignments, which might have to do with chaos. So maybe they're going more towards chaos, hence the chaos chapter. Similarly, in their previous song, New Rules, it says, "I don't know why this is. Everything in this world is about good and evil." As in saying that they dislike that everything in the world is so binary, like there's only good and there's only evil. Why can't you be both? Why can't you be in between? This ties into their whole opposites theme, which is constantly ongoing. You know, think of angel and devil, cat and dog. But it indicates they want something outside of this binary, the more gray area, outside of the lines. Maybe leaning towards that different ability or, you know, alignment. As the lyrics to Can't We Just Leave the Monster Alive suggest. To be honest, I kind of hope that this song gets a music video because there's a lot going on with it. Yeah. Until then though, if it even does get a music video, I am just mostly interested in seeing the lyrics and what exactly this little evil entails. What if I had been that Puma or Balance Games? At the crossroads, the chances of being foolish are 50-50. My choice will soon become reality. Either way, I'm sure of it. This song, interestingly, mentions a crossroads or a forked road, and this is definitely in reference to their many possible paths. I mean, the possible paths thing is kind of like the doors in the sky, which we've seen before, but we've also seen crossroads before. Notably, in G-Friend, when they choose to follow the path with the blue shining light. For TXT, we know that blue is uncorrupted magic, and anything having to do with, you know, things that are fantastical. Red, on the other hand, is usually more the dire reality of a situation, and is also corrupted magic. So, will they choose to go on the path of the crossroads that leads them to the blue uncorrupted magic, or will they choose the path of corruption? I don't know, but I feel like this is all in reference to different options that they have lying in front of them. The Korean title about balance games kind of adds to this as well, especially because balance games is like a this or that sort of game. The song also obviously references Puma, the song from the Eternity album. Now, the song Puma does actually reference a real-life event that happened in Korea where a puma escaped from the zoo and then ultimately had to be put down. The freedom that it attained from the escape of the zoo was essentially taken from it, which is sort of what the song Puma was originally about, and the music video as well. In the music video, it has them literally being the puma who break out of their cages only to have lasers pointing at them. The ending does sort of seem to have them look like they're with their freedom, but it's hard to tell if that remains the case, and it's possible that this will either continue from this or will show another path that if they hadn't broken out might have been an option. Basically, they have the choice to remain or to run away, to freeze, or to fight back, I guess. There are many different options at the crossroads. Anyway, I feel like this is going to be a very interesting song when it does come out. No rules. The fire that I always dreamed of that doesn't know how to stop. Try one more time. I just want to dance. Dance until we can't. So, No Rules easily references New Rules. And New Rules was essentially about breaking the rules that were established, you know, breaking out of that binary and like defying the lines and the laws that have been drawn for them. I'm kind of guessing that No Rules will actually build up off of that, but specifically in relation to their story. Partially this is because it actually has me thinking of Enhypen's Drunk Dazed lyrics, which they say like a world with no rules, which is in reference to the place where they have their carnival, which I always was theorizing is Magic Island, or like the same world that Magic Island exists, since I actually think Magic Island is like TXT's own island within this world, but the world exists elsewhere. This is essentially true because TXT sort of views Magic Island as a place that they can go and there are no rules, there are no consequences, they can do whatever they like. We see them literally doing this in the Magic Island music video where they're just doing what they want. Of course it does actually have consequences, but they don't seem to know that at the time. The lyrics of the song though really just reference the storyline to me almost directly. The fire that I dreamed of that doesn't know how to stop. I mean, come on, this is literally Runaway. They couldn't put out the fire. That's the whole point of Runaway. They couldn't put out the fire, so they're running away from it. And also the idea of a dream, which ties to Subin, which the first time we ever saw that was actually in the Runaway music video, but we know that he's having like prophetic future dreams. So, I mean, if they do break away from their tradition of like matching the song title with the album for their storyline music video, you know how like Eternally music video was for the Eternity one, Magic Island was for the Magic one, Nap of a Star was for the Star one. If they break away from tradition, I think this is going to be the music video that has a like TXT universe, the Starseekers related storyline. Otherwise it'll probably end up being just like Can't We Just Leave the Monster Alive, where it doesn't really have its own music video but the lyrics are clearly referencing it. Dear Sputnik, my warmth, my frozen hands. When we face each other, it all melts away. You're my orbit. You're my one and only. So Sputnik means comrade or friend in Russian, but it was, and I believe this is where the connection lies, the very first satellite ever sent out into space. That song clearly reflects this by talking about an orbit. Interestingly, I do think this one will probably have like more sad undertones, despite the more fun, upbeat style of the song. Satellites are destined to die and then just remain floating in space forevermore, lonely and forgotten. Of course, the song does seem to talk about them always being in orbit, which is where the bittersweet feeling kind of comes from, because yeah, it is always in orbit, even after it dies. Sounds a lot like a certain ghost that we know in the story. But in the song, it does feel like a warm reminder that someone will always be there for you and thinking of you, which is really sweet. It'll be interesting to see like how much of space they do actually reference, since we know TXT does consistently reference space. Yes, I'm still on the TXT and Alien agenda. I'm waiting for it one day. But also, I just really love this song. It's my favorite out of the previews. Just wanted to say that. Frost. Only in my dreams, a solitary existence. Even if I try to escape, I fall into instability, deeply. The frozen meaning before the name. Am I ready for this? So as I said, with all previous releases, the song title that matched the album title was the one with the Starseekers storyline music video. Because this is named Frost and matches with Freeze, and they didn't have to include that, I do think they're going to be continuing this tradition. So this one is most likely going to have a music video later on. Previously, it was like always the last music video they dropped like after the promotions of the whole album is. So I don't think this is going to be a music video anytime soon, but I do think that we can look forward to it as a music video. So yeah, it's probably a long ways off, but I cannot deny that the lyrics of this really sound like they're part of the TXT universe. The idea of dreams, the mention of isolation, the feeling that no matter what they do, it'll end in a disaster, which it has so far. And of course, the mention of the name, which we know refers to Moa and that ghost that we see. This is clearly set up for the chaos that is to come. I feel like this is their first chapter in the chaos chapter, which would make sense because it kind of is. But like this is the building block off of what causes their chaos. You see a moment of hesitation. Am I ready for this? Are you? Of course, I can't make any solid predictions until I see the lyrics for the like title track song, because like I said, those are always related. But I'm really excited to see where this is going to go. Like I said, it'll make sense to be the first step that will lead us into this trilogy that brings the boys to chaos, that shows them that they need to find their love. But that is, of course, a far ways away as of this particular moment. So let's move on to something a little bit closer, shall we? Just my final little wrap up of expectations of things that I expect to see. That's an awful title, but that's what we're going with, I suppose. Obviously, the cat is gonna be here. Is it gonna be in the first video? Probably not. Usually the cat is reserved for the TXT Universe music video, which I did say was a long ways off. But I can expect for it to appear in the music video yet again. It has not yet not appeared in a TXT Universe, sorry, Starseekers music video. So, the bear. Okay, I have been waiting for the bear to reappear since it first appeared. Originally, it was in Runaway, it was nice and beautiful, and then it got corrupted towards the end. And after that, of course, Taeyeon picked it up, and then we saw it like in a huge promotional image as part of like the Eternity promotions, and it was in the port version of the album but didn't appear in any of the music videos at all. And so I've been waiting for it, and apparently, and I know I said I wasn't going to talk about these, but we did see something that kind of looked like it in a TikTok, which, what the heck? So I'm really looking forward to seeing the bear again. Please, maybe not the life-sized creepy version. That would be a little frightening, but I just really want to see this bear and see what's up with this bear, because there's so many thoughts around it, and anyways, I want to see that again, and I really think this is the time for them to bring the bear back. They've been hinting at it for a whole album without showing it to us. Here, it's perfect. It's gonna go into Tan's arc. Tan as the bear. I mean. Okay, hello. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt again, but, and I know I said I wasn't gonna talk about this, but here we are. The first teaser just dropped. I'm still editing this. I might make a video breaking the teasers down. I have no idea just yet. However, I do want to talk about something because there's a lot of references to it in the teaser, which made me think of Taeyeon because of the balloons, and that's like a thing that you see in It, the movie. And then also Taeyeon has the cast on his arm as well. Also, Yeonjun's earrings. And then it just made me think like, oh, the bear is referenced to being an alien on the board in Runaway, and it is an alien. I don't know, I'm still on TXT's alien agenda here, you guys. I just wanted to bring that up because there are thoughts in my head. Third, holes, or sinkholes, wormholes, literally any kind of hole. They kind of have this penchant for appearing around holes. They're either falling, getting sucked into, or jumping into holes. And in the pop-up book, which I haven't actually talked about yet because it did just recently come out and I still haven't gotten my copy and I probably won't get it for like another month, they actually have a hole at the end that they fall into. By the way, the bear is in that book too. So, anyways, I kind of am expecting to see a hole. I don't know why, I just have this feeling that something is going to, some sort of symbolism maybe surrounding a hole. I'm kind of predicting that they're going to come across some sort of danger and they're going to have to choose between fight, flight, or freeze, like responses. And because this is the album named Freeze, we see the freeze response, probably. Or perhaps, as the trailer suggests, they might not even be frozen by their own choice. Anyways, what are your predictions for the music video, for the album as a whole? Leave them in the comments below. I really want to hear what you guys have to say. Anyways, if you did like this video and you found it fun or interesting, please give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so that YouTube tells you every single time that I post a new video. All of my social media is linked in the description below. And of course, I wanted to give a shout out to my patrons over on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for your support. I could not do this without you. As it is, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, everyone. Stay sunny. Bye!